So the other ways to connect granny squares are with your hook. And these are the ways that I like to do it just because they feel better to me. And I think they kind of look a little bit nicer. They have a nice little finished edge to them. The first way is to do the slip stitch. And to do the slip stitch, you're just going to start in that corner stitch like I showed you on the others. And I like the way the slip stitch looks if you go through the back 2 loops, but you can also do it if you go through the front 2 loops, and I'll show you kind of what both of those look like. So we just looped through our first 2 corner ones, and we'll have to finish that off with the needle when we get finished, so leave a good tail. And then I'm just going to do the slip stitch across through each of these 2 loops here. So the back loop of each stitch, I have them connected back sides together. And you definitely want to use the same hook that you used for the granny squares, otherwise you could get your tension off and it would look weird. So this is what it looks like if you're just going through those back 2 loops. And I think this makes like a nice little ridge in it. So this is our slip stitch here, and then that's the front loop of that side and the back loop of this side. And then you can also kind of see there's the gray from the back loop that we went through and the green from the back loop that we went through. But when it's all together, you can't really see the different colors very well. And I just really like the way that this looks. I think it's a nice little, almost invisible join. It leaves a nice little finished edge in between each stitch. I'm going to finish off this set with the back loop only, and then I'll show you what it looks like if you do both loops with the slip stitch join. And again, with these, I like to do the corners. So we're going to go into this corner of this one, and then this corner of this one. I'll just do the back loop on the corner, and then we'll start doing the both loops. And then we'll go into both loops on this one just to show you what it looks like on this side here. I always have to use my fingernails to get through the... So now we're going through both loops of the V with the slip stitch, just to show you what that looks like with this one. This kind of stitch works better if both sides are the same color. So this one you're going to be able to see a difference. Whereas if you're going through the back loops only, you can use 2 different colors and it doesn't look bad. This one is actually, you're going to be able to see a little bit. And so it works better if it's done in the same color for both sides. So sometimes when I do my granny squares, I try to make sure that my outside round on the granny squares is always the same color, just so whichever kind of connector I use, you won't be able to see the difference. So here is the one that was through the back loops only, and they look really nice. This one looks through both loops, and it has a ridge of each side of the color, which looks fine. It's not a big deal. But if you do both, it looks kind of like a braided ridge in between both squares. And it looks really nice. So you can do it in 2 different colors. It doesn't look bad, but I prefer to do it with the same colors, and it looks a little bit better. So those are the 2 different back loop only, and then going through both of the loops. And then I'm going to show you how to do the single crochet. So I'm just going to pull this out. And then you can also connect using the single crochet method. It makes a much higher ridge, but it still like looks a little bit nice if you want a nice high ridge between your granny squares. So I'm going to start that one off. And so I'm going to do a chain for this first stitch to get going. And on this one I'm just going through the back loops again. And you just go through the back loops and then do the single crochet stitch, just like we did the chain stitch. My granny squares are starting to look a little ragged because I've been taking out my seaming stitch over and over and over again. So I'll just finish up this row and show you what that looks like. This is what it looks like if you do the single crochet edge. It adds a little bump in the middle, which adds some texture to the mix as well. So it's a nice little option if you're looking for something a little bit different. I prefer the slip stitch, but the single crochet is great if you're wanting, it makes a nice little frame around the squares, so you'll have like this little raised area around all the squares, which looks really cool depending on the pattern that you're using. And you can also do this single crochet in both loops as well, and it'll look kind of similar to the one that we did with the single crochet. So it would be like one color on one side and one color on the other.